Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon. Captain of the industries, leaders of the society, community, media, and also the press, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Astro Awani for this, I would say, a very important initiative. And it's also related to issues which I would say is very close to my heart and also close to the heart of my management team from Sabre Dynamic Holdings. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your presence here, because without you here today, this particular session will be meaningless. We were given a task to basically talk on the topics which is touching on a quest of sustainable energy future. And how do we relate this to this entire caucus? This caucus is talking about smart living and innovative related topics. So sustainability, future growth, is very much related to alternative energy options, which the entire world is looking at as an alternative. So Sabre Dynamic as a company engaged itself in this initiative, and people is questioning, what is it so relevant to Sabre Dynamic? So if you look from the screen, our core business model is basically circled within what we call it as the operation and maintenance capability. And as the operation and maintenance, at what our chairperson has initially given an introduction, we started off doing a lot of maintenance, repair, overhaul. So that has been our core competence. And later on, we emerge or we position the company as a EPCC, or what we call it as engineering, procurement, construction, and commissioning capabilities. So of course, if you look from the slides, you will see other products and services, which actually are services and capability of our group, which look and focus at training and education and IT solutions. So based on this background, we are trying to basically share with you our journey and a quest towards a sustainability energy future. What does it mean to Sabre Dynamic, and why is it important for us to share this particular journey with every one of you? So if we look from the data that has been shown on the screen over to you, it basically tries to explain what is renewable energy, which I strongly believe the audience is very well aware of it. But we just want to highlight that when we talk about renewable energy, we are looking at efficiency generation or electricity generation with efficiency incorporated into the entire value chain. This is basically known, for example, like we heard about a hydro power plant is generating electricity. We talk about solar as options to produce energy. So it is basically electricity generation. So this is related to energy. On top of that, we are talking about transportation. So when we look at the transportation itself, it is talking about things like EV, electric vehicles, things like hydrogen fuel cell, which is used to power or to produce the electricity to power out the vehicles, which is talking about things like truck, things like buses, things like vans, saloon cars, and so on. And not least, we also try to look at renewable energy from the rural off-grid situation. So as the captain of the industry, and also the leaders of community who is in this particular hall, it is very important not to forget our contribution to those community of people who are living in the rural areas. Sometimes they are not able to get the power, especially from places like I myself coming from Sarawak. There are still a very big gap between the supply of the electricity requirements based on the population in the urban and also the suburban situation. So off-grid is important. So in this sustainable energy solution, we are looking at an options which we can offer, and we strongly believe that it can help to mitigate the big gap between the conventional kind of energy solutions and this renewable energy, which will come in to fill up the gap or also to give as a competition to conventional energy options or solutions. So if you look at some of the data that is extracted for 2015 and 2016, is talking about a data which is basically pull out, which shows that 24.5% is the renewable energy contribution to the entire energy that is used worldwide. We also would like to raise up one very important information before we actually go into the details of an important event, what we call it as the Kyoto Protocol. So the question now is tying up between smart living and innovation as compared to sustainability or sustainable energy future. Why is all these issues coming up and become a very strong debate and argument within the R&D space, or within the industrialists, or within the R&D professionals? So Kyoto Protocol, as every one of you are aware of it, is a commitment which is being signed up by majority of all developed countries to help to basically help to overcome the emissions of carbon into the world. Because global warming is real. During lunchtime, I was talking to my colleagues from other parts of the world, and they're saying that if you look at what is happening now, summer in Europe, the heat wave has come and attacked a few countries, and there are deaths which has already occurred across the entire globe, and you can read it from time to time. Also, we will also cannot deny, for example, like in Greenland, recently there is about 11 million tons of iceberg that collapsed into the so-called the lake, and it created a rise up in the level of the water. Why is all this thing happening? Because scientists have proved it out that the emissions of carbon, when it has reached too high level, it basically thin up the ozone layer of the entire atmosphere, and the exposure direct the heat from the sun to the earth is reaching quite a high, extensive kind of level. So where does all these emissions of carbon comes from? It's talking about the energy that is being used in this entire world. For example, like coal-fired, gas-fired, and emissions from the vehicles and so on, and other factories which is basically emitting out all these carbon emissions into the environment. So, as a result of this, the Kyoto Protocol is a commitment from different countries. My country, Malaysia, is part of it, and they have to come up with solutions to help to reduce down these emissions of carbon into the atmosphere. So this is where we, as a corporate organization look at it from two perspectives. Number one, we are of the opinion that Cyberdynamics has a corporate responsibility to contribute to reduce down the so-called emissions of carbon to the atmosphere. Number two, we are also responsible for our shareholders, potential investor coming into the company, to be able to produce good financial returns for the investment that they have put into our organization. So based on these two prompts, we embark on quite a number of sustainable energy future options, which we will share with you shortly. In hydropower plants, I will say that very minimum emissions of carbon to the atmosphere. At the moment, we have managed to garner up or invested or be part of a 130 megawatt hydropower plant in different locations in Malaysia and also outside of Malaysia. The diagrams or the photos that you have seen is basically the equipments manufactured in Germany, and is being transported and so-called send it to the different locations of our projects, which is under the hydro power plant technology. The one that you have seen just now is a 30 megawatt in Kota Marudu. This second diagram that you are looking is a 60 megawatt, 3 different locations in the states of Perak in Malaysia. We also have embarked recently and put in a contract agreement for a 30 megawatt hydropower plant also in our neighboring country in Laos. And from all those total of our commitment at the moment, we have managed to total up to 130 megawatt, and the journey continues. Besides that, we are also looking at other alternative options of going green. So if you look at the slides that is being presented to you in front, we are looking at what we call it as a smart kind of approach, where we are looking at wastewater byproducts from palm oil extraction process. So in a short form, which I believe a lot of you understood, the existence of POME. And this POME will produce what they call it as the methane, and this methane gas is useful to be used as a feedstock or fuel to power out quite a number of power generation equipment designed by different designer or manufacturer globally. So as a company, we use Capstone microturbine technology, which is a green technology approved by the regulator of United States of America. But it is equipment that is green in technology. It has the ability to emit or reduce down the emissions of carbon. But we need what we call it as a source where we can process this so-called biomass into a gas form so that it can become a feedstock to power up the so-called the equipments which we are representing. So as a result of it, we are acquiring what we call it as the technology which can convert this particular waste into at least to a content of methane and use it as a source to power out the so-called turbine, which is basically designed specifically with a clean approach. So this is another initiative which we are embarking on at the moment. So if you look at the entire process as what it is shown in front there, you can see that the waste that has been collected from the palm mill, from the refineries, entered into the pond, and there will be some process of digestion that is undergone or is going through, and later on it produces the gas, and the gas will run the so-called the equipments, and equipment produce the electricity. And if it is a cogeneration kind of things that we want to incorporate in, it can be done accordingly. So this is another areas which we are contributing to what we call it as a sustainable source of energy in future. Also, the last thing which I would like to share is talking about the hydrogen zero emission mobility. We have, as an organization, signed up 4-cornered collaborations. Number one, with the so-called the government of the Sumatra, which will be going to be hosting the Asian Games in 2018. We also have the collaborations together with a company based in UK, which they have a technical collaboration with the Imperial College of London, UK, and of course, also getting the so-called endorsement from the government of United Kingdom. If you look from the financial commercial returns, like what I mentioned, it's, prior to this, we have the corporate responsibility. But of course, a corporate responsibility has to couple up with a return of investment. And you can see that a lot of all this renewable tariff rate is much higher if you compare to the conventional source of energy. For example, the petrol or the fuel or the coal type of energy sources. Renewable energy tariff is definitely much higher as compared to the conventional technology. So this, in fact, is a motivation for everybody to look at as an option and try to make this as a popular options, because the more you use, the more you will be contributing to save the next generation to come. Yeah? When people talk about this and sign up Kyoto Protocol way back about more than 20 years ago, people is very skeptical. People doesn't believe what the scientist is saying and so on. Until today, one of the biggest country and powerful country in the world also doesn't believe. He is not signing up to the Kyoto Protocol. So meaning to say that there need to be a stronger initiative so that people believe in these efforts. And what you have seen, what is going on across the entire world with the global warming effect and so on, is something that you cannot deny. I always argue and debate with my colleagues, my friends, and so on. I say that when I was staying in one location, somewhere in Shah Alam, never in my life I've seen tree with the leaf drops. Before it drops, it changes color in a tropical country like Malaysia. But it is happening now. Never in my life, when I was a childhood, I experienced rain across the entire tenure of 1 year or the period of 1 year. We know that the monsoon season is somewhere around November, December, January. That's it, that 3 months. But now, it's as if that the monsoon season is across the entire whole year, from January until December, because it's raining. And from the other part of the world, you can see that winter is also changing from months and years and so on, and it's quite unstable pattern if you really look into what is going on. Does this not prove to you that the world is really undergoing a severe changes? We have not even debated. I have not extracted out some of the research of professors and scientists, which I don't think I want to channel it out in this particular forum because it's really quite controversial, and it will trigger a lot of unbelievable kind of excitement. Yeah? But I would just like to put that as a separate discussion, private discussion. But what is important here, that we must realize and accept the reality that global warming is happening in every part of the world across the entire year that we are going through. So this initiative, that is one of our corporate responsibility, is to introduce another source of energy to the Southeast Asia country, that there are other options besides what you have always heard about. And we will support an educational journey and drive to further explain to different strata of the community, from students up to the government officers, about an options using hydrogen as a source of energy. So what is the future in Malaysia? As we have seen, Malaysia has a good mix of energy resources that includes biomass, biogas, solar, and also hydro at the moment. Yeah? Hydrogen as a source of energy is coming in. I'm very pleased when I got the news that the Sarawak government has announced that they are going to build the first hydrogen plant in Malaysia. And it will be initiated by Sarawak Energy, which is the power utility arm of the states of Sarawak. There are a lot of debates and reasons behind it, how it is justified to be feasible, which I don't have the time because the screen shows in front of me is only 4 minutes left. But it will be very interesting if we have the time, you would like to discuss out of this particular forum. I will always open and discuss how it can turn this hydrogen technology as a source of energy, which can give commercial returns, financial returns to you, and it is also helping the entire world to reduce down the emissions of carbon to the atmosphere. This is some of the data of the achievement using all these sustainable alternative energy options. This will be the figure of some of the data which is collected and also be made known to the public. And moving forward for the country, this is what I mentioned, we need the participation of the entire change of the community. Number one will be the civil servants by implementations of policy. The respective government needs to come up with a policy clear enough for the other portion, the industrialists, to come in to participate. So that is where industrialists realizing the policies that has been created, and the general community whereby someone in the country needs to be an evangelist talking about renewables. So it's the same thing which I would like to share, that we have initiated this way back more than 10 years ago, but it come to a stop because the policies are not there. And then the other part of the community, the corporate world or the corporate institutions is not coming in to really support to make so-called this initiative happen and make it a success. So these are some of the photos of some of the things that we are collaborating with other technology provider. And we as a company, EPCC Engineering, procurement, construction, and commissioning company, execute all this project wholeheartedly with two things in our mind. It is a corporate responsibility. Secondly, it gives us the return of the investment financially to grow these particular options of sustainability, future energy.